Hi, I am Allie Camilletti, and you are listening to Snack Leadership. I will be talking about everything leadership, broken down into bite-sized pieces. You will hear what different leadership skills look like in organizations and how they can rise teams up or take them down. I help leaders build resilience and improve performance by bringing awareness to opportunity behaviors in my business. Spark your mindset. I provide leadership and sales coaching, as well as team building and guest speaking. My hope is for you to feel inspiration and to create a spark in your mindset. Today, we are talking about mentorship. Mentorship is a period of time where one receives guidance from a mentor. Michelle Harris is the CEO and founder of Bosstrack, a company focused on supporting and developing women leaders with a focus on building an ecosystem of new women leaders who are driven to become high-impact, confident leaders, and experienced women leaders who want to give back and provide mentorship to the new women leaders. Michelle is passionate about leadership, development, and mentoring, as well as teaching others. She is also the host of the HypeSquad with Bosstrack podcast. Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your knowledge.
Hi, Allie. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to have these few minutes with you.
Absolutely. All right. So let's talk about something you've learned about yourself recently.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I had to think a while about this because I think as you get older, there's not as much to learn about yourself because you know yourself so well, especially if you look within a lot. And I do a lot of meditation, and it's just part of my daily routine and been my life to really understand who I was. But what happens is you have life changes, I think, that will reveal a new part of you that you just didn't know existed. And
Absolutely.
and in my case, I would say that I learned that I'm way more of a social person than I ever thought that I was, because growing up, coming up in my career, I always assumed I was more of an introvert, because I do like to think about things and take my time with things. Um, I I didn't, when you're in corporate, you just do these things. You know you're supposed to network, and you get out and you network and you talk to people, and then you have your friends and you have your team. And I just never really thought about that being such a part of my life. But then as you mentioned in the introduction, I founded Boss Track, and it was about actually about almost a year and a half ago now. And what that does is, when you're a founder, you're in your own world, and it can become pretty lonely. And I notice quite a bit that if I am working from my office by myself for too long, like, I can start to feel it. And I actually almost start to feel depressed if I don't have calls booked and I'm not on a Zoom with people that I'm talking to for the podcast or for the business. That social aspect is so important to me, and in such an ingrained way.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand that. People ask me sometimes about, like, how do you like working from home and alone? And I'm like, I love it. But I've been doing it, I think I'm on 18 years now or 19, and I'm so used to it. I know what I need to do in
Mm,
order to fill that gap, but also paying attention to when it starts to happen, right?
yeah.
Of like, I've been holed up too long. I'm giving out too much than getting in and being fed a little bit, through those relationships with
Mhm.
friends and the importance of it. It speaks to how important human connection is.
Yeah, it is so important. And when you not only leave your career to start a business, but you also move to a new area completely in the country, and you have no friends there in, where you're at, and then add in, the pandemic that was going on, it can definitely have a significant impact on you.
Oh, I can't even imagine. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So, talk to me about when you really first embodied this piece of mentorship and saw like how important it was for you.
Yeah. So I've been in leadership for some time. My corporate career was over 25 years, and from the very beginning, even back to college, and even before that, I was always a leader in some way. And coming up in my career, I didn't have that opportunity for mentorship because there really weren't a lot of opportunities, not a lot of women that were in power positions of power to provide that mentorship. There were men in those positions, but they were not the type of men that thought about mentorship and guidance other than, this is what you need to do and this is how you can figure out how to do it. Not really that type of career advice. So I always had to seek out that that guidance and that information for myself. So I, always reading books and listening to whatever I could listen to. Of course, the internet didn't quite exist the way it does today. So information wasn't always that available, but there were I'm really dating myself, go to the library and get a book on tape or read
Yeah.
read a book or some kind of program, or just talk to my own leadership about, I really want to go to this training and development program, and this is why I think it's important. So I felt that struggle my entire career. And when I, of course, became a leader with more people that were working for me, that was one of the critical things for me to provide to them
Yeah.
was that mentorship, not only be their boss and be there to answer questions or give them guidance, like this is what, we need to have done. These are our goals. These are our priorities, but also how can I help you grow in your career? So what do you want out of your career? Developing or creating an individual development plan where if they wanted to, be a manager in 3 to 5 years or whatever that looked like where are they right now and what steps do they need to take to get where they want to be, and whether it be working my in my world or working for somebody else, helping them get to that place. And then even outside of that, I was involved with um, mentorship experiences with local colleges and providing um, students that are getting ready to graduate that mentorship and looking for internships and that sort of thing. So and when I thought about what I wanted to do, because I knew I wanted to start something on my own, and I knew that I wanted it to be something to give back and it wasn't about money for me. It was about what can I do to contribute and give back. That's the thing that kept coming back to me. And the reason that I focus on new women leaders is because when I was in corporate and looking for those opportunities for my new leaders to, not only hear from me, but also go to a program, like a longer term program where they get a longer term support, it didn't really exist. There were a lot of executive women leadership programs. There were, more so for women that were already leaders and they were looking to become the CEO or VP or step into C suite in some way. Not a whole lot for new leaders, except for, okay, I can send you to a 1 or 2 day course, and then come back and just try to figure it all out. So
Right.
what we ended up developing was we have a program that is over a period of 8 weeks, and then we provide long-term support after that. So I really look to fill that gap that I saw as well.
I love it. I'm going to go a little off script here and ask, so have you also helped companies develop mentorship programs in their organizations through the leaders that you work with?
Oh, that's an interesting question. And no, we haven't ventured into that. Like I said, we're just about a year and a half old. And
Mhm.
as you can imagine, being a new business, it takes a while to get that visibility and trust and respect and
Yeah.
for people to figure out who you are. So, I mean, just our development program, our mentorship, and our community has been like our specific focus right now. So, no, we haven't. we haven't ventured into that world, but it actually is a great idea to venture into when we're ready to move on to something or add to something to our portfolio.
Recently, I've been working with a company, and the owner, he's like, I'm just not really knowing my role right now. Right? Because
Mhm.
he's kind of in this place where he's overseeing, but he so wants to be involved, but he sees that in order to grow, he's got to really step out
Yeah. Yeah.
and hand off the baton. And I'm like, it's mentorship.
Yeah.
It's absolutely mentorship. Like people love you and they respect you, and you're the owner. And I had the great experience of working for a technology company where the owner would still come in and he'd like call me over and be like, Allie, so somebody sent me an email and the background's a different color and their text was white. And then I went to respond and now my text is white and I can't see what I'm typing, you know? And so it was great to have that interaction with him. And what I cared about so much is not that he knew how to use his email, but his history of business and how he started the company and what he knew about these companies. And that mentorship is just, yeah, I really, really think it's extremely important. And
Yeah.
it's been proven that when companies have a really good level of mentorship programs within their organizations, it helps people feel that sense of belonging.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true. Yeah, it's interesting. I was, and it's a little bit of a different. It's included, but there was something I just got from McKinsey just like a day or two ago, talking about why people stay in their position, what makes them satisfied in their position, and what makes them leave their positions, and all of it was that development and that attention to their career, and mentorship is such a significant part of that. And I mean, it was significantly different, the statistically different, I would suppose you call it. But it was. It's always interesting to see that and see that proof, like even in current like studies that continues to come out.
Yeah. And I think about that, especially with women, because having come up and go into management at a very young age, right? I think I was like 26 when I was first managing restaurants, and I didn't have a female role model to show me how to be a good leader.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right?
same.
I was
Hmm.
just trying to like duke it out in the man's world
Yes.
and hope that I didn't get squashed,
Yep.
which meant it could sometimes look a little like abrasive on my end, right? Because I was like trying to find my place. And now I
Yeah.
just love so much that as women, it's more embraced that there is a soft side. And that
Yeah.
is a good leadership quality.
Yeah, that was something that I definitely noticed when we didn't see that type of mentorship mentality. It's like the leaders don't care as so much for the employees; they care about the bottom line. And I did I mean, I was fortunate and unfortunate to work for companies that were always very high growth, and like that bottom line was so important because they were looking for the next level of funding or they were looking to go public. So it was always bottom line, bottom line, bottom line. And unfortunately, people go by the wayside in that mentality. So I have definitely seen where I've been in the environment where that doesn't exist, but in my role, I always made sure that I nurtured that. So it was kind of, we always had this like separate little culture that existed in the company that didn't necessarily represent the entire company. But I think that can happen. A lot of people talk about company culture, and it is true that the company culture overall does affect your role, but really you have like a little ecosystem culture going on as well with the people that you work for, have, as long as they're, I guess, bold enough to be different and provide you with the opportunities that the company isn't giving you.
Yeah. And that the company's open to
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
right? So
Hmm.
important.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to share as far as what you've seen on positive and negative when there is or isn't mentorship?
Um, yeah, this is something I think we talked about before we started, is that in my podcast, every single person I talk to, I ask, like, who was the mentor that had the most impact on your career? And it's so interesting that so many people really do have that person that they can look back to. But at the same time, and I should note this as well, some people have said, well, I didn't have that mentor, but I have all these other mentors that don't know me, but I have followed them and I follow their experience, like Bozoma St. John or Brene Brown or Michelle Obama, Oprah. I mean, like so many different people that you can look to and role model and kind of look to as your mentor, even though they're not there talking to you specifically.
So I'm going to flip seats and ask you, who is a mentor that had a significant impact in your life?
Yeah, so that is actually interesting because I didn't have that, like the typical mentor that you think about when you say there's this one person that had an impact. So I really did have those people, Stephen Covey and
Yeah.
Tony Robbins and Brennan Burchard and Brene Brown, like just learning. And some of those are a little more current that I listen to, but I think of them as mentors today. So I was, I had never looked at it from that perspective until that one guest had first brought it up. But I would say that that would be, my answer as well, because I didn't have the benefit of having that person that stood out as, bringing to be fair, I want to say that I did have people that I worked for that were kind and they were advocates for me and they uh, understood my potential and they brought me up and promoted me in times where maybe I might not have been quite ready for that yet.
Yeah.
But I mean, of course, mentorship and advocacy is different because you have a different relationship with them. They're talking about you. They're not necessarily giving you advice, but they're understanding and observing where you're at and where you can go. So I do want to say that I have had those people that have been advocates.
And for those that are listening to it, this doesn't always have to look career wise, too, right? I mean, I had a mentor that he was my boss originally, but he was also turned into a father figure.
Mm,
And before he passed, he was like my best buddy. And
nice.
so those mentors can also mentor you in being a new parent
Hmm.
and through relationships and all of those different pieces that make you the whole leader that you really are as well.
Yeah, that's so true. That's very true.
So talk to me about a quote. What would be your favorite quote that you feel like embodies this topic of mentorship?
Well, it's funny. I really tried not to go with a Brene Brown quote because she comes up in my podcast so much because it might as well be like the
Yeah.
fan podcast of Brene Brown sometimes. But I do. She does talk about the exact things that are so important to me, and she has a way with words. So for me, I really look to one of her quotes. I have so many, but I'll give you one. And is I define a leader as anyone who takes responsibility for finding the potential in people and processes, and who has the courage to develop that potential.
Yeah. I love that. And I am a
Yeah,
big fan as well
yeah.
of Brene's.
How can you not be?
Yeah, I know. When somebody says they've never heard of her, I'm like, oh my gosh, really? Like, let me just give you
Yeah.
all kinds of information because she's changed my life with like the gifts of imperfection. Just
Hmm.
was my real first big shift that
Yeah.
I just credit her to that information I'm so grateful for. Yeah,
Yeah. When I
love
do
it.
love, and I'll say it because it's really short, but clear is kind and
Oh,
unclear is
yeah.
unkind is
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
such a like it's such an easy thing to just have in your head and it's so important. It's so important.
I I know it's a little off color here, but I can't help it. One of my leaders, she's like, "So if I flip him off, is Claire kind?"
Oh, okay.
And I always think of that. I'm like, okay, so let's expand on clear and the kindness with it. that it looks like.
Yeah, that's so that that can bring a whole different discussion up, because even when you talk about authenticity, that means there are like guide rails to what that means, not
Right?
you know what I mean.
So, okay, a favorite snack.
So that probably changes every now and then, but right now my favorite snack is celery and almond butter. I know that's like not the most exciting thing,
What?
but yeah, I have a bag of celery that's cut up all the time, and I'll just like go in and put some almond butter on and just snack on it. So that's a thing. I think it's the saltiness and the crunchiness of it.
Well, I have an almost 6-year-old, so ants on a log is a staple in our house. We consider that a vegetable.
Okay, is that what it's called? Ants on a log?
Yeah, because you
Okay.
put, little raisins on the celery with the almond butter,
Ah,
right?
oh, okay.
Old
I've never tried that.
school. Yeah,
Okay.
old school. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you wanna make sure that you share with our audience?
No, I appreciate you allowing me to come on and have this voice for mentorship, and I really encourage people to find the avenue that works for them. If they have somebody in their company that they can develop a relationship with, that they will feel that they'll trust. If there's somebody outside of the company, like look to your network, look at LinkedIn, look at connections of connections. I mean, come to Bosstrack. We have a community online, and we actually talk about networking and mentorship like all the time. And we provide, like you said, that those mentors. So we have experienced women in our community that are just there waiting to help the women in our community when they have questions that come up, and to be able to provide the guidance that they're looking for. So yeah, there's so many places you can look. You just have to put the attention to it and understand the importance. And unfortunately, sometimes you don't understand the importance of it until you're
Mhm.
further along. But you
Yeah.
really doesn't matter where you're at in your career. You need to start looking.
Thank you so much, and I wish that I would have had you when I was 26, right? It
Thank
would have
you.
been so
Thank you.
amazing. Thank you, Michelle. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Allie. I appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to Snack Leadership. I hope you felt inspiration, motivation, and felt your mindset spark. Snack Leadership is recorded and produced by myself, Ali Camilletti, and music by Shireen Amini.